For decades, the unmistakable voice of Cliff Richard echoed across continents, defining him as one of the most enduring romantic figures in popular music. His songs spoke of devotion, yearning, heartbreak, and hope, and millions embraced him as the embodiment of love's tender promises. Yet behind the applause and admiration, a single question persisted throughout his extraordinary life. Why did a man who sang so passionately about romance never choose to marry? The contrast seemed almost poetic. An artist whose career was built on celebrating commitment and longing remained unmarried, and for many, that absence felt like an unfinished line in an otherwise beautifully written song. Now at 85 years old, Cliff has addressed the mystery with greater honesty and reflection than ever before. In doing so, he has revealed that his decision was not rooted in fear or indifference, but in a life carefully shaped by fame, faith, discipline, caution, and sacrifices made quietly, away from the spotlight. Behind the brilliance of sold-out arenas and the dazzling glow of stage lights lived a man navigating two parallel worlds. In public, he was a superstar, confident and charismatic, adored by generations. In private, he was far more measured, guarding a personal life he never fully allowed to unfold. This was not because he lacked affection or the ability to love. Rather, the path he chose demanded an extraordinary level of self-restraint and spiritual focus. The transition from Harry Webb to Cliff Richard represented more than a simple change of stage name. It marked the beginning of a transformation that carried profound responsibility. One identity belonged to an ordinary young man, the other belonged to a cultural phenomenon. In the late 1950s, Britain was emerging from years of post-war recovery. The country was hungry for vibrancy, optimism, and a sense of renewed possibility. Into that climate stepped a shy teenager named Harry Webb, unaware that his life was about to change forever. Almost overnight, he was reintroduced to the world as Cliff Richard, a rising star whose youthful energy symbolized a new era. His image blended charm with just enough rebellion to capture the imagination of a generation eager for something fresh. Fame did not arrive gradually. It struck swiftly and powerfully, transforming him from a schoolboy into a national obsession before he had fully grown into adulthood. Concert halls overflowed with screaming admirers. His music dominated radio waves. Journalists chronicled his movements with relentless interest. And yet, beneath the polished celebrity persona, he remained deeply rooted in the values instilled during his upbringing. He was polite, careful, and often quietly overwhelmed by the magnitude of expectation placed upon his shoulders. From the earliest days of his career, Cliff recognized that fame was not merely applause and glamour. It came with enormous pressure. Record producers envisioned him as Britain's answer to Elvis Presley, exciting but not dangerous, rebellious yet reassuringly controlled. He quickly understood that longevity in such an industry required caution. Discipline became essential, not optional. Every public appearance was considered carefully. Every interview answer was measured. His entire image was constructed with deliberate attention. While some performers embraced excess and spontaneity, Cliff leaned into routine and structure. He set boundaries to protect himself from the potential chaos of celebrity life. This was not coldness or detachment. It was foresight. He sensed early on that surrendering too much of his private self could lead to losing control over his own narrative. The thrill of applause was undeniable, but it also underscored what he was sacrificing. Normality became elusive. Privacy slipped further away with each success. An ordinary, quiet life felt increasingly distant. Fame required constant travel, endless performances, and a perpetual state of visibility. In such a whirlwind, nurturing deep, sustained companionship became extraordinarily difficult. The emotional walls Cliff constructed were not born from arrogance. They were built for self-preservation. Ironically, the very love songs that elevated him to iconic status became a protective barrier. Through his music, he could channel vulnerability and emotion publicly, while shielding his most intimate feelings from scrutiny. Discipline shielded him from scandal and instability, But it also created an undercurrent of solitude that even remarkable achievements could not entirely erase. As his popularity expanded, so too did public curiosity about his personal life. Admirers dreamed of a fairy tale romance. Tabloid headlines speculated endlessly about the identity of the woman who might one day become Mrs. Cliff Richard. Yet the truth was subtler than gossip suggested. Cliff experienced affection and closeness, but always within carefully drawn limits. One of the most significant relationships in his life was with Delia Wixes, a dancer who had admired him before fame transformed everything. Their connection was genuine and carried the promise of something enduring. For a time, the idea of a life beyond stages and studio lights seemed possible, a shared home, a family, a quieter existence away from the relentless spotlight. However, the demands of his profession proved overwhelming. Tours stretched across continents. Recording sessions consumed precious time. Commitments multiplied without pause. The possibility of permanence slowly receded. Eventually, Delia wrote him a heartfelt letter. In it, she expressed enduring love, but also acknowledged the impossibility of waiting indefinitely for a man whose devotion to career and responsibility left little room for settling down. Cliff kept that letter. It became a silent reminder of a future that might have been, preserved not with bitterness, but with acceptance. Over the years, romance became less central to his life, replaced instead by deep and lasting friendships. Cliff was warm, considerate, and engaging, yet consistently reserved. He chose companionship without the binding obligations of marriage. As decades passed, he formed meaningful bonds with individuals who respected his boundaries and understood his unique circumstances. These friendships provided emotional connection without demanding more than he felt able to give. Gradually, he came to believe that love was not confined to romantic relationships. Devotion could be expressed through loyalty, shared experiences, and mutual support. Marriage, in his view, was sacred and deserved unwavering stability. Given the pace and visibility of his life, he doubted he could offer the consistent presence such a commitment required. A pivotal moment arrived in 1966 when Cliff made a conscious decision to dedicate himself fully to Christianity. This spiritual commitment reshaped his identity even more profoundly than fame had done. Faith became the cornerstone of his existence. Prayer, scripture, and service were no longer secondary considerations. They became central pillars guiding his choices. His understanding of relationships deepened. Marriage, to him, was not simply companionship, but a solemn covenant demanding emotional depth and constancy. Endless touring and life under constant public observation made providing that level of stability challenging. Faith did not eliminate longing or human desire, but it offered clarity, purpose, and boundaries that anchored him. Throughout his career, speculation and rumors were unavoidable. Questions about his bachelor status surfaced repeatedly. Yet Cliff consistently declined to allow public fascination to dictate his private life. When confronted about his decision not to marry, he responded with composure and occasional humor. He understood that silence often invites imagination, but he preferred discretion over defensiveness. His restraint was intentional. Fame may have demanded access, but he insisted on maintaining dignity. He shaped a life filled with music, charitable work, and sincere friendships, even if it diverged from societal expectations of romance and family life. Contrary to assumptions, he did not live without love. Instead, he cultivated a chosen family comprised of close friends, colleagues, and spiritual companions. These relationships provided loyalty, affection, and support comparable to traditional family bonds. Those who know him personally describe a man far more playful and generous than his carefully guarded public image might suggest. Through mentorship, shared faith, and genuine care, he fostered connection without relying on conventional romantic frameworks. His experience demonstrated that family can emerge from trust and shared values rather than solely from marriage vows. Even so, Cliff has openly acknowledged moments when solitude felt heavy. There were quiet evenings when the absence of a partner contrasted sharply with the thunderous energy of sold-out concerts. The stillness of his private life sometimes underscored what fame could not provide. Yet he never characterized this as tragedy. Instead, he regarded it as a natural outcome of his chosen path. Discipline, faith, and commitment brought fulfillment, but they also required trade-offs. Loneliness was not an adversary. It was a companion he learned to understand and manage with gratitude. At 85, Cliff reflects on his life without bitterness. He maintains that marriage simply never aligned completely with the life he was called to live. This was not because he lacked the capacity for love. Rather, his commitments to music, spirituality, and service shaped his priorities differently. Remaining single afforded him independence and clarity. While he admits to moments of yearning, he does not regret the life he built. His dedication to charitable endeavors, unwavering faith, and enduring friendships provided a sense of completeness beyond romance. Cliff Richard's legacy, therefore, rests not on what he did not have, but on what he consistently contributed. Over more than 6 decades, he offered music that touched hearts, generosity that uplifted communities, and integrity that remained unshaken by scandal. His reputation as one of Britain's most enduring cultural figures stems not merely from chart success, but from character. Love in his story was not confined to publicized relationships. It manifested in service, compassion, and loyalty. His restraint was frequently misunderstood as avoidance, yet it was a deliberate and thoughtful choice. While some contemporaries were consumed by controversy, Cliff maintained steadiness and grace. Silence served as his shield. Discipline grounded him. Conviction strengthened him. His journey challenges the assumption that happiness must follow a predetermined script. It affirms that fulfillment can be found in diverse forms of love beyond romantic partnership. Ultimately, Cliff Richard's life stands as a testament to quiet strength and unwavering devotion. In an industry often defined by spectacle and excess, he chose moderation. In a culture that frequently measures success by marital status, he demonstrated that purpose, friendship, faith, and service can sustain a life just as profoundly. His story is not one of absence, but of deliberate choice. It is a narrative shaped not by regret, but by conviction, serenity, and the enduring courage to live authentically according to one's deepest beliefs.